Te ora. So, I just, it's got a lot of things going through my mind, and there must be a lot of things going through everybody's mind. I'm trying to align myself with God. And how do you do that? How do I do that? First, you have to have a belief in God. I'm just going to put you up here for a minute so that I can just relax out a bit. How do I align myself with God? I'm more interested in the premortal existence. If the premortal existence existed, then we'd have memories of it. We'd remember it. I was brought up in a 3-bedroom home. And we lived on the border, about, say, a kilometre away from what was designated as urban and what was designated as rural. And we were on the rural side, a kilometre off. From a town, only maybe 3,000 people. So you couldn't really even call the town urban. But for designated purposes, I mean, this might freak a lot of people out, but it's a clear memory of mine. But I still don't quite understand it. Michelangelo, he painted a picture of what he thought the sight of God looked like. I don't know if you remember it, or there's a book called The BFG, The Big Friendly Giant. There's a movie that's been made about it, but the book was better. It satisfies your imagination more when you read the words and you apply your own thoughts to it. It's so much more unique. But on Michelangelo's image, apart from not having clothes on and stuff, that face, that hairstyle, that beard that's on the Sistine Chapel ceiling is close enough to what I would imagine or think God or remember what God looked like. If God had an image, that's the image that flashes in my mind. And I never knew who Michelangelo was or what the Sistine Chapel was. But we lived on a rural site out of town. And we would live down a road. It was a gravel road. It ran for about 1 kilometre and there was only 3 houses on that road. It linked up with the main road, which led into town, which was only 1 kilometre from the urban boundary. And as a boy, because my father built our house, he was a carpenter. And he designed it so that the boys had a boys' room, the girls had a girls' room, parents had the parents' room. There were 2 boys, 2 girls, passageway, bathroom was next to our boys' room, and kitchen and lounge in an L shape. Parents' room, girls' room, boys' room, bathroom, toilet, kitchen, lounge in an L shape. Now our boys' room was on the corner of the L over here. So L shape like that. Parents' room, girls' room, boys' room, bathroom, toilet, dining room, sitting room. And our boys' room was on the corner. And there was a window like this. My brother slept on that side next to the wall opposite the bathroom, through the bathroom. And I slept by the window. And 9 times out of 10, I always had to have that window open. Always. The fresh air hitting my nostrils, the fresh air hitting my face. That's how I got to sleep. Sometimes my brother was a nuisance to share a room with because he couldn't fall asleep without the radio being on. And I couldn't fall asleep with the radio on. I needed to be absolutely silent and dark. I couldn't sleep with the light on. I can't sleep, even to this day, I can't sleep with the ticking of a clock. And what I'm going to say to you might freak you out because I used to think about this. Like the memory used to revisit me and I was thinking, it's not an imagination. It's not even a dream because, okay, I'm just going to come out and say it. The image of God used to visit me outside this window. Doesn't it look like a freaky peeping Tom peeking through the window. He was as tall as a popular tree. And I know he was as tall as a popular tree because there was a popular tree, and it's still there today, growing between our house and the neighbour's house, which I could see through the window, which was about 200 metres away. So 200 metres on a kilometre gravel road to us, another 200 metres to the next house, so that's 600 metres to the road. So he was tall, he was tall, and he wasn't white and he wasn't naked. He was grey, he wasn't silver, he wasn't white hair, he was grey. But he looked like that image on the Sistine Chapel. And he wore a grey robe. And he had sandals on his feet. So he just like used to bend over, just bend over and peek in. But this way, like bend over. So his rear would be facing, that's the L shape of the house, his rear end would be facing Mum and Dad's room. And he'd be peering in. He'd like bend over like and just peer in. And then he'd stand up and he'd walk away and he'd stand next to the popular tree. And that's how I thought, wow, he's so tall. I know, right? Pretty out there. And then he used to say anything to me, then he used to, Isaac, hear me, this is what I say. No, he just used to, like he was checking a cot or something, like your baby. Well, he wasn't panicking. He didn't think like I'd stop breathing or something. He just like open the door and check. Didn't give me a freaky feeling. Didn't give me a sensation that I was doing any wrong. Just like the BFG, like in the book or even in the movie. Some of those, but he's like in the middle of a city. This is a cow paddock, and then there's a river. There's a river, like the neighbour's house that's 200 metres over that way. They're next to a stream that links up to a river. So 100 metres if behind that neighbour is a river. A big river. Probably maybe 700 metres across. Might be less. I'm not too sure. Could be 250 metres. I could be exaggerating on the width of the river. But you can't see it because there's willow trees along the riverbank. Willow trees, a couple of pine trees, and then some popular trees along the creek, but there's one that stands between us and the neighbours. It's still there. And that's how come I knew how tall he was. A giant. Well, yeah, a giant. And that probably happened like 3 times in the time that I was between like the ages of 7 and 9. I started getting up to doing mischief things with my brother, like smoking cigarettes and stuff at 9, so probably just drifted off. I don't know, what do you think? Have you ever experienced anything like that? a vivid imagination. People, well, not people, but my brother thinks that I'm a deep thinker. I overthink things. You know, you got thoughts like that to compete with. It's like, yeah, where do you go with that? Where do you go with that? You might think, oh, am I hallucinating? Well, I wasn't on any hallucinative, what do you call them? Like any type of drugs that would, like opioids or not opioids, but like, yeah, no, I wasn't. And my parents didn't do any drugs. They were godly parents. We went to church and stuff. They drank and they smoked cigarettes, but they didn't do any drugs. There was no drugs in our house. We hardly had any parties. Mum and Dad hardly ever invited other people over to have a drink. I don't, maybe once or twice in the 16 years that we lived in Wall, because we moved to we moved to the city. So there was nothing lying around. There was no pills lying around. They were very, very, very responsible parents. There was one time, because the freezing works, the meat processing plant, their pipes and their runoffs ran into the creek. And during the summer, the water wouldn't run and flush out so much. So the bacteria from the cleaning, because they used to have to clean and sterilise every night, and some of that backwash from the river would, because they used to just flush it into the river, as they do, that backwash used to come up the creek and it used to settle in the creek in these stagnant pools. And one time I went swimming, like by myself. It's hot, stop off at the creek, under the bridge, have a bit of a swim. But because I drank some of that water, I got sick. I got really sick. I had pleurisy, sick. And at the time, in the town there was a pneumonia epidemic going around. Like heaps of kids were just falling over. And they said if the children's ward wasn't full, I'd be in hospital. But my mother had to take care of me at home and give me all the medicines and stuff. That's the one time in my life that I can actually say that I hallucinated. And I was sick. And I was on medication. So I don't know what they medicated me to be cured of pleurisy. I was nearly dead. I nearly died from that. Anyhow, I was sick in bed. I was at home alone. Mum had just come in and checked up on me, and I was crook. I felt like I was going to die. I really felt like I was dead.